7 years after The Last of Us Part 1, after a bunch of major delays, leaks, and controversies, The Last of Us Part 2 released. And if you are part of the blessed who weren't subject to that agonizing release cycle, I do want to take you back to a singular point within that cycle, before all that other stuff happened. Because you see, the delays which prompted the leaks and the leaks which brought forth the controversies completely overwhelmed the conversations and expectations of this sequel. And that's unfortunately bled into the conversations we have about the game today. Part 2, it seems, just can't be separated from those lenses anymore, which is why we need to go back to the very pure beginning, when the part 1 in the title didn't exist, because the sequel, we believed, might never happen. The Last of Us ended with Joel lying to Ellie about the events of the hospital. In the epilogue, the shortest chapter of the game, we're switched from playing as Joel to playing as Ellie again, further detaching us from him. As Ellie, we follow behind Joel, observing him and pondering over how we should judge him.
There, I got you.
In the last scene of the game, Ellie presses Joel to tell her the truth, but Joel only reaffirms his lie, and the game ends on an ambiguous
"Okay."
As much as the trolley problem at the hospital caused a permanent division among fans, inciting all those discussions, these were the more personal questions we all struggled with. Questions like, what did that okay mean? Did Ellie accept the lie or not? Would Joel ever reveal the truth to her? How would Ellie react if she ever found out? Are they safe? For years, we all wondered what became of Joel and Ellie. For the next 3.5 years, there were rumors as usual, but no actual reveal of a sequel came. All these events, showcases would come and go, and soon the discussions shifted to whether there is need for a sequel. The story we've followed so far does stand on its own. The questions it's left us with have already been argued to death. The anticipation and expectations have risen to an absurd degree. Any sort of sequel here would have a monumental task ahead of it. Justify its existence, satisfy all our questions, meet sky-high expectations. Maybe, if this world is to be revisited, it would be best to move on from Joel and Ellie. 3.5 years later, at PSX 2016, PlayStation Studios made a bunch of new reveals, including a new game by the same developers, which seemingly once again erased the possibility of a sequel being announced. But as the show began to close, then CEO of Sony came out to say his goodbyes, before saying this.
There's one more thing.
There's one more thing.
Give it. Here we go. Give it.
I understand that building anticipation for something that's been out for many years now seems pointless, but it's all to let you experience the magic we all felt in this moment. in a surreal image at the time, and Ellie, 4 years older than the one we know, tunes her guitar.
Yeah, once we're done with this whole thing, I'm gonna teach you how to play guitar. Yeah, I reckon you'd really like that.
I'm almost ready to cry. Oh, God.
In my mind, my gun, they comfort me. Because I know I'll kill my enemies when they come.
A silhouette appears.
Surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life.
A man carrying Joel's trademark revolver. And finally,
Yo! Yo!
Joel and Ellie together in a single frame. Just look at the reaction this image evokes. Look at the emotion on these faces. Each of these people experienced the first game in some capacity, developed an affection for these two characters, shared in their bond, and now all of their voices tell you where the heart of this story is. They'd have to wait another 3.5 years, but eventually, 7 years after The Last of Us Part 1, The Last of Us Part 2 released. Called Part 2 specifically to double down on the fact that this is the sequel, the continuation of what sparked 7 years of debate, 7 years of speculation, a declaration that this sequel will not shy away from any of our concerns. It'll dive right into it, starting with Joel and Ellie. Because sure, there's going to be new plot moving forward, but that plot shouldn't interfere or water down the very real, very complex questions we had about Joel and Ellie. They are, after all, the heart of this story. So part 2 needed to progress their relationship and answer our questions. And it needed to do that honestly. Meaning, they couldn't conveniently join hands again because of forced circumstances, nor could they conveniently be separated. We needed to see this relationship play out up front in full. And we do. After the hospital, Joel and Ellie went back to Tommy's home, Jackson, where they would live for the next 4 years. Throughout part 2, in a series of flashbacks, the game bridges this 4-year gap, showing us how Joel and Ellie's relationship unfolded. Our Act 3 will consist of these flashbacks. A few days after they join Jackson, Joel goes out with Tommy on a patrol mission, and after clearing out the enemies, Joel sits with Tommy and confesses everything.
You found the firefight. Because of her, they were actually gonna make a cure.
This is the opening scene of part 2, and it's often overlooked as just previously on. But in fact, this is the sort of scene we've been dying for. This is Joel himself reflecting on the events of the first game honestly. There's no reason to lie here. Alone with Tommy, this is Joel's confession.
You go halfway across the country with someone.
The journey we took on in part 1 was long, dangerous, uncertain, and Joel never even had any interest in it. Why go so far? Initially, he only took it on because it was Tess's dying wish. But with all the false leads and contingencies, that promise alone wouldn't have been enough to sustain him all the way. Of course, he began to care for Ellie, and that kept him going for a while longer. But then at some point, all the more, why not just abandon the mission and keep Ellie at Jackson? Why even make arrangements to have Tommy see it through? Joel remained committed to that goal and eventually got her to where she wanted. And as he reflects on why he did it, Joel says,
Maybe I was starting to buy into that old cure business.
But with the indifference he says it with, it's hard to believe that was the reason. So he pauses to think and then admits,
Maybe I just wanted to do right by her.
Joel finished the mission because he knew how important it was to Ellie. While it may not have seemed like it,
We don't have to do this. It's fine. Well, dreams are weird.
Joel intimately understood why Ellie wanted to see this through, to have it mean something, to fulfill her purpose. But then, surely that means he must have understood the weight of what he did.
It's what she'd want. And you know it.
When Joel confesses his sin, he says it with a lot of pain.
I told her. Her immunity meant nothing.
Which makes you wonder, with an understanding of what Ellie wished for, and with a selfless will to see it through, why did he pull her out of there at the last second? Many would tell you, and so would I, that when Joel carried Ellie out of the operating room, in that moment, Joel was acting out of a selfish love. In that do-or-die scenario, where he had to make a choice and act on it, Joel tapped into his regrets. He remembered how his daughter died, how he tried to fix it but couldn't. Joel retreaded those steps to spare himself from the same fate, because in the heat of the moment, all Joel wanted was to avoid the pain he experienced back then. It was selfish. It went against Ellie's wishes. However, even upon reflection, that's not what Joel answers with. Again, these are Joel's honest thoughts. He isn't lying to Tommy, nor to himself, because we know Joel. He's never been concerned with being a good person. He's the only one who's never deluded himself into believing his actions were noble. Which makes it all the more puzzling that even after having the time to reflect, even after the revelation that he knew what Ellie wanted all along, Joel still considers his actions selfless? When Tommy finally asks,
Jesus Christ, Joel. What do you do?
Joel proclaims,
I saved her.
Joel and Tommy quietly ride back to Jackson. It's a nice tie back to the same ride in the now previous game. That one played out as a cutscene to emphasize how we don't really know what Joel's thinking. It was just this idea we couldn't quite reach. But having reconciled that now, we do get to play as Joel, taking our time to appreciate the landscape. When they get back, Joel says his goodbyes and heads out to meet Ellie.
Hello? Ellie?
Jesus. Almost gave me a heart attack.
And so we get our long-awaited reunion. But it's not how we pictured it.
Hey.
Hey.
There's this awkwardness between Joel and Ellie, where neither really seems to understand how to approach the other. Joel at least attempts to rectify the tension, but Ellie doesn't seem to want to do that. Ellie remains standoffish with Joel. It should have been obvious to us all along. Joel was always a bad liar, and Ellie always had a sharp bullshit detector. We noticed those characteristics come up throughout the game. In the end, turns out they were there to clue us in on the fact that
I swear.
Ellie would obviously know that Joel lied to her. So that, okay, was never going to be about her actually believing him. So we can rule out that possibility. Ellie had given Joel another chance to come forward. Yet he still held firm to his lie, so she didn't pursue. But here it looks like she's not letting it go either. I think the answer is Ellie doesn't really know what to do with Joel. She's at a standstill, so it's on Joel now to try and sway her back.
Tommy and I went out riding the other day, and he told me a joke, and I thought about you.
Okay, so this is very likely a lie. It doesn't really seem like either of Tommy or Joel have any interest in jokes and puns. But of course, the one who does love puns is Ellie. So this is obviously a ploy from Joel to get on Ellie's good side again. Although, due to the overwhelmingly cold shoulder Ellie gives him, Joel stutters and stumbles under the pressure.
It's, oh shoot, no, I forgot it.
Till Ellie puts him out of his misery.
How do you...
Joel, it's pretty late and I gotta get up in a few hours.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna get out of your hair. Just, I want to show you something. Just give me 1 second.
Joel brings out Plan B.
What's this?
A guitar. And this piques Ellie's interest. From here, their banter naturally flows back in, and Joel tells Ellie that he wants to sing a song for her, and she obliges.
Promise me that you won't laugh.
Sing something.
No.
Come on, I won't laugh. I won't laugh. I won't.
I'm trusting you.
The song Joel sings is called Future Days, which is an actual song by a real-world band called Pearl Jam. And the song itself is not very subtle at all.
If I ever were to lose you, I'd surely lose myself.
Anyone listening in can tell you that this is Joel letting Ellie know how much she means to him. It's got a nice tune to it, so it's emotional, and it gets to her. And Ellie opens up to him after that. That's about how most of everyone receives this scene, and they're right. But there's also so much more here that's being overlooked. Which, as you've probably noticed, is a sentiment I've repeated multiple times at this point, about a bunch of different scenes. So let's just take a little segue to dive into why I think it's so important to keep pointing that out. Despite its popularity, I believe that The Last of Us tends to get underestimated by its audience, because most only tend to focus on the broad strokes of the story, rather than on the individual beats. Which is like saying that this expression and this expression are the same. You'd be right, but clearly the details on this one form a greater picture here. The context and the intricacies shouldn't be overlooked. To put this in practice, Joel and Sarah's relationship, the one which sets the tone for the whole of the first game, is viewed like so. Taking place across 3 scenes, the first one shows us their life before the outbreak, with its purpose to endear us to Sarah. She's kind, cute, innocent, and you can see how much this dad loves his daughter. The second scene takes place during the outbreak, with Sarah's death, and we see how much this dad is hurt by his daughter's death. And in the third scene, we skip 20 years after the outbreak, with Joel now cold and detached because of what happened. These are the broad strokes, and on their own, they work. But it does undersell the importance of what Joel and Sarah's relationship was, how it went beyond just a father-daughter dynamic. So let's try again, and this time, zero in on the beats of just one of these scenes. Part 1 opens with Joel anxiously arguing with Tommy over a disagreement in the workplace.
Let's talk about this in the morning, okay? We'll talk about it in the morning.
He ends the call before Sarah notices and goes to sit down with her.
Monday at work, huh?
What are you still doing up? It's late.
Sarah tries to joke around with him, but Joel tells her to go to bed, still tense from the argument with Tommy. But from here...
What's this?
Your birthday?
Through sheer innocence alone, Sarah slowly but surely pulls Joel away from that.
You kept complaining about your broken watch. So I figured, you like it?
Until Joel finds himself forgetting his worries, and even playfully teasing her.
I think it's stuck. It's not...
What? No. Oh, ha.
So much of who Joel is, what becomes relevant later on, is all already established in the first scene. The way he abruptly ends the call to keep his daughter away from the harsh realities of the world.
Let's talk about this in the morning, okay? We'll talk about it in the morning.
What? I need a gun?
No, you don't.
The way he rejects her when he's overwhelmed by his worries.
Monday at work, huh?
What are you still doing up? It's late. We'll talk about it later.
And the way he can't help but get pulled back by her innocence. This is where you realize the importance of Sarah in Joel's life. After this, when she dies, you get it. It's not just that he lost his daughter, his light's gone. The one who'd show him that the world isn't just cold and dark. Without Sarah, Joel gets lost in that place for 20 years. And instead of a detached survivor, we now see a man whose anxieties have completely consumed him. Even though the good in him still reaches for the light it sees, he now resists it even more. Stuff like this is why these details matter. In the details of this story, we can extract so much flavor from each scene. Certain instances actually turn out to have a much different meaning than it initially seemed. Every stutter, every twitch and change in facial expression provides a lot to consider and learn from in The Last of Us. And so, when you return to this scene and you really start to listen to the words of the song, when you place into context that this is Joel singing to Ellie, the messaging within the song just means more. How Joel approached Ellie here wasn't unlike anything we've seen before. Time and time again, we've seen how Joel operates. He'll never come out and say how he actually feels.
What's up, Joel?
Just checking in.
When pushed a bit, he'll come up with a lie to mask his true intentions.
Tommy and I went out riding the other day and
Tommy knows this area.
Oh, fuck that.
And so it takes a bit of effort to figure out what he's actually trying to say. There always has to be this awkward roundabout dance with Joel. It's the same here, except for one gigantic difference. In all of these scenes, Joel's efforts were always directed at pushing the other person away. But in this scene, he's not trying to push Ellie away, he's trying to get closer to her. And it's incredible to see. This character who'd been shut off for so long is actually trying again. This song is the most vulnerable Joel's ever been. Joel wants to tell Ellie that after all this time, he's found his light again. He wants to tell her that he's been made a better person through her, that she's helped him heal and move on. Joel's complete now because he met Ellie. All throughout part 1, we bore witness to Joel's despair. Suggestions of a dark past even before the pandemic. Hints towards the places it took him to, and the weight he felt every day. Constant shots of Joel passing out, then jolting awake, conveyed both his exhaustion and the constant terror he lived in. Understandably, Joel lost his faith a long time ago. But now, he's trying to say that he started to believe again. Joel, whose life was this waking nightmare, who saw each day as just a fight to make it to the next one for the first time, feels like he can look forward to tomorrow. He's excited for these future days with Ellie. All while playing the song, Joel avoided any eye contact with Ellie, which shows just how hard this was for him.
there you go.
And Ellie sees that. Just as Ellie had laid herself bare to try and get him to open up in the ranch, Joel tries the same for Ellie here. The same Joel from a few months ago probably wouldn't have gone this far for Ellie. But now, he's willing to put himself in this extremely uncomfortable place for her. This gesture draws parallels to so much that came before.
I swear to God,
I get you out of this. They're so singing for me.
You wish.
Back when this promise was made, Joel and Ellie were in hell, with their toughest tests just ahead of them. The thought that they'd ever get to be together like this, in safety, felt like a dream. Joel doesn't have it in him to reveal what happened back there, and so Ellie doesn't know where they can go from here. But through this song, Joel answers her by instead pointing towards the future, towards this chance at peace.
She's yours.
Joel hands Ellie his guitar, which is the pivotal moment of this act. Joel and Ellie's relationship right now is broken. But as they agree to start anew, this guitar henceforth will remain a symbol of their relationship. And so begin the 3 flashbacks, where we'll see if Joel and Ellie find each other again. Three years before the events of part 2, about 1 year after this promise, Ellie strums the guitar, but complains that she still hasn't gotten the hang of it, though Joel reassures her that she just needs to keep at it. So immediately, we're updated on where Joel and Ellie are at a year later. Ellie agreed to start anew and is trying to mend their relationship, but she's not quite there yet. Though Joel believes all they have to do is keep trying, and they'll get there. Joel's confident they will, maybe even today.
All right, come on.
Does it?
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
It's Ellie's birthday today, and Joel has a surprise planned.
I have a surprise for you.
What? Is it a dinosaur? Is it a dinosaur?
Stop trying to guess. I ain't telling you.
It's time to see how Joel and Ellie have fared through this year. One of the more tedious mechanics of part 1 was constantly having to compensate for Ellie's inability to swim by dragging her around on this plank.
All right, Ellie. I need you to...
I know. Step on the fucking pallet.
Water always spelled danger for Ellie. But here...
Mind your step.
I got it.
Oops.
It's revealed Joel finally taught her. Ellie's growing. So far, Joel's making good on all the promises he made Ellie. All the promises that he'd raise her.
No. I don't know the first thing
I
about this.
promised that I'd teach you how to play.
I swear to God, I get you out of this. They're so singing for me.
You wish.
Hey, that's what we can do once we're done.
What's that?
You can teach me how to swim.
You got it.
But raising a child isn't just about helping them grow, but also about letting them be kids again.
Holy shit, Joel.
We're here.
Oh my God, it is a dinosaur!
Joel doesn't just fulfill his promises, he goes the extra mile for Ellie.
What will it take for us to get back to how we were?
Spaceship. I would have wanted to be an astronaut.
That a fact. But now hold on just a minute. We're going into space. You're gonna need a helmet.
Oh,
Joel's curated this whole adventure to exactly what Ellie likes.
Those water guns you've been dreaming of? I nearly got shot for these.
What is this?
This is a thing that took a mighty effort to find.
Up until now, we've pointed out all the dark and dangerous aspects of this world. But I'm sure you've also noticed how beautiful it is as well. As terrifying the prospect of an apocalypse may feel, I bet there are many who fantasize about it regardless. Because the true beauty of this world comes from how it tears down these hierarchies that oppress us. Places otherwise accessible only to those who could afford it are now open for everyone to explore.
Whoa, fancy. You ever stay at a place like this? Before it all went to shit, I mean?
No, this is too rich for my blood.
So many of the best memories these characters share have come because they live in this world and are able to do the things they want to do. That freedom is what makes this world beautiful. But of course, these moments have always been short-lived, too few and far between, and soon you're reminded of the horrors within.
Hey, Ellie, come here. Take a look at this. You see that deer over there? See it? Just through there, look.
Joel points to a deer, which, unbeknownst to him, would surely trigger memories of that time in winter. The image of the deer came to represent the worst period of Ellie's life.
Ellie!
Joel never really learned of what happened back there. It was a burden Ellie chose to take on alone. On the night Joel gave Ellie his guitar when he came to visit her,
Hello? Ellie?
what she'd been so occupied with was this sketch of a deer. Ellie had overcome all the tests in winter, answered all the questions it had posed, and used the experience to pave a path towards the future. All that'd been left to do was to decouple the trauma from that picture, to put it behind and be able to appreciate the sight for what it is. And so here, 1 year later, what does this image mean for her now?
Looks like... How's that feel?
Ellie has finally put that memory behind her. This first flashback gives us an opportunity to see Joel and Ellie in a different and in an actually better light for once. One theme prevalent throughout The Last of Us is the mistakes we make when we judge people. Because how we judge people is often so limited to our own perspectives and biases, often so arbitrary and hypocritical, and also often ignorant of the situation. Winter showed us the darkest shades of Joel and Ellie, with Ellie lashing out and Joel devolving back into the pragmatic torturer. But considering what they were going through, how can we fully judge them on that? When separated and in danger, we saw the worst of Joel and Ellie. Now together and in safety, we get to see the best of Joel and Ellie. We see a Joel who, really at heart, is a dad who lives for his daughter.
Did you know this was here?
Oh, you don't like it. We can head back.
Oh, shut up.
And we'll go to all these lengths just to see her happy. And Ellie at heart is really just a nerd who geeks out over space and comic books and music.
Oh, fuck yeah.
Where's the steering wheel?
Rovers don't use steering wheels. They use joysticks.
Huh.
Now, you've probably wondered why this section has so many parallels specifically with Left Behind.
No, don't tell me it's busted. Man, for a second I thought I was gonna play it. Oh, it's so badass.
you imagine just...
That night with Riley at the mall has now been immortalized as the greatest night of Ellie's life. The perfect adventure. At the end of it, Ellie was ready to accept death, but she didn't die. So since then...
I'm still waiting for my turn.
Ellie.
However, it's because she lived that she was able to meet Joel, and through him, she was able to grow further, see greater sights, explore new avenues, and finally have another perfect adventure. To have found another person again, with whom your fears and insecurities melt away, who you can trust to take over.
Close your eyes.
Close your eyes.
Because they only want the best for you is a possibility worth living for. To go through all of life's struggles, just to get to that moment again. But, lest you forget, this is The Last of Us. And so now it's time to ruin this moment. Because in order to fully enjoy this moment, in order to have it be the happy ending, you would have to ignore the giant elephant in the room. That their happiness, their second chance at life, this adventure, and everything that's happened to them since the start of this act has all been built on a lie. Can Ellie really let that go? That giraffe scene, wasn't the point of it to show the loss of innocence? Its beauty was in knowing that we'll never get to experience a moment like that again. But here we are, trying to replicate that feeling. The only way to have this moment remain is to return to that naive innocence. Otherwise, it might just all begin to feel a bit hollow. In truth, Ellie never did let go of the past.
There, I got you.
She only decided to take Joel's hand.
There.
Inevitably, the past will creep its way back to them.
There.
While exploring, Ellie enters a museum alone, with Joel locked outside. While trying to find a way for him in, a bunch of trippy sequences take place, which we'll get to later on, but for now, the important ones are the sequence of notes and graffiti left behind by this man, who we learn was an ex-Firefly. Like many, the Fireflies lured this man in on false promises, had him commit atrocities in pursuit of a cure. And in the end, all that came to naught. As the man unravels in his final moments, he lets loose all of his hatred here, eventually leading us to his final piece, Liars. But what this image means for Ellie, we know. As Joel barges in and rushes towards Ellie, he once again finds himself confronted by his past.
Well, no matter how hard you try, I guess you can't escape your past.
And once again, he tells Ellie to turn away.
Come on.
Pretended to be asleep. Can't I just get her a gift and be done with it? I know, she wants an apology. Ellie. Ellie.
Huh?
Are you with me?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good.
Okay.
2 years before the events of part 2 begin, about 1 year after the trip to the museum, Ellie goes out on patrol with not Joel, but Tommy. And so, For the first time, we're taken away from Joel and Ellie to instead focus on Tommy and Ellie's relationship. And it is interesting to consider what their relationship would be like. Because, remember, Ellie isn't actually Joel's daughter. And yet, here we see that Tommy's accepted her all the same. It's never expressed out loud how wholly Ellie's been accepted by Joel and his family, which makes this really sweet. And the beats of this sequence reinforce the same. Ellie, just like back then, is lost in her own thoughts.
Did you hear me?
Are you with me?
And just like Joel, Tommy then goes off talking on his own about some argument he had with his wife Maria. But he too notices that Ellie's still not listening.
Ellie, I'm talking to you.
Huh?
Okay, what's going on?
All the way back in Act 1, we mentioned assignments handed out by communities like Fedra and the Fireflies. One of these assignments would be patrols, like the one we're on right now, set up partly to clear out threats like these infected stragglers, so they don't accumulate and form a horde. But what separates Jackson from the likes of Fedra and the Fireflies is that they give their people the option to choose what they want to do. From her journal, we learn that Ellie's not so keen on farming duties, but is much more interested in doing patrols. So Ellie looks to be accompanying Tommy as his trainee, and Tommy in turn gives Ellie a sniping lesson. Although of course, this is more so his attempt to help her blow off some steam, and Ellie sees that.
Hand her over.
Hey, thanks for that. It's just what I needed.
Sure.
So this was a simple look into the bond Ellie and Tommy have developed. In the end, Tommy helps Ellie cheer up again. But as for what was bothering her in the first place, we find out once they get back to the lodge.
That was y'all shooting up there, right?
We return to Joel, who holds in his hands Ellie's guitar. And the guitar, it turns out, Ellie's been neglecting.
I see you haven't gotten around to changing the strings yet.
I didn't know I was supposed to.
Yeah, we'll get you some new ones. Yeah.
With this new update, everything falls into place. Since that day, Joel and Ellie have stopped talking. Their relationship has gone stale. This patrol they've been assigned to together has forced them to interact after a long time. And Tommy uses the opportunity to playfully give them the push they need.
Well, there's that music store down there. I bet they got guitar stuff.
With Tommy's prompts, both Joel and Ellie agree to this new adventure.
Sure.
And a chance to reignite their bonds. Therefore, it's Tommy who strums the guitar this time. Joel and Ellie now embark on a quest to find new strings. A detail that can easily be overlooked since it's just pretense, but in fact, this quest is a really important one. Its significance re-emphasized by the chapter's name, Finding Strings. This is a quest to rekindle their bond again, and the big question is, will they? The journey to that answer is actually not very straightforward at all. It's a topsy-turvy one, where at some points they clash, but then in others they're able to come together again. For example, we begin with Joel mentioning Ellie's patrols, how he doesn't think she's ready for the tougher paired patrols, which provokes Ellie to snap back.
I'm a better shot than almost all of them. And I have more experience than most of the new...
And so we're led to think, here we go. This will be another case of Ellie fighting for her independence, with Joel struggling to let her go. But instead, Joel allows it.
Prudes who...
You think you're ready. I trust you.
Okay.
And they come to a compromise.
You just do me a favor and start with the shorter routes for now. You know, see how you handle them.
All right.
So this is a light example of what we'll see in this chapter. But as we progress further into it, these peaks and troughs only grow steeper and steeper.
Ellie, I think I found another one of them comics you've been reading.
In part 1, we as Joel would collect issues of a comic book for Ellie. In part 2 here, Joel uses those comic books as a ploy, just as he used the joke books as a ploy, to get closer to Ellie.
Hey, you remember those, Savage Starlight comic books that you're into?
Yeah?
Tommy and I found some when we were moving through that school the other day.
And I don't think I need to mention, this is another lie from Joel.
Tommy knows this area. Tommy and I went out riding the other day and... Tommy and I found some when we were moving through that school the other day.
Tommy seems to be his go-to excuse, but it works.
She's a savage.
Well, what she does to Captain Ryan in that death match? Whew.
Yeah. I mean, he definitely deserved it, but...
That was a nice twist how they escaped, though.
You're funny.
Ellie starts to loosen up, and that awkwardness we saw prior dissipates. For those of us following on from part 1, we can say that we've always maintained confidence in Joel and Ellie's ability to find each other again. No matter how much they clashed, how distant they seemed to be, the strength of their bond would always persevere. Joel and Ellie have always been inseparable. However, this flashback shows us why it might not be that simple this time. As we move on, we come to a sad realization about their relationship. The time gone wasted.
You need a boost?
I got it.
This boosting mechanic is one that we'd grown used to as players.
Here, boost me up. Hey, boost me in there.
And it became such a great tool for storytelling, showcasing Joel's gradual trust in Ellie's capabilities, as well as Ellie's own growing independence. It began with Joel refusing to let Ellie out of his reach.
No, that's not such a good idea.
But as the game went on, Joel and we got accustomed to it. And that's when the game started to play with us.
Ellie? Ellie?
What?
The ladder. Come on.
Right.
This event occurs in the giraffe chapter, when Ellie's not in the best mental state, still reeling from the trauma she went through. There's a lot the game does up till this point to convey Ellie's anxieties, like optional dialogue prompts and a change in demeanor of her character model. All of these can still be missed or brushed over by the player, but it's when the game halts progress, when it trains us over and over again to expect an action only to stop it from happening, that it's most effective in forcing us to direct our concern towards Ellie. That is the power that can be drawn from this simple mechanic. And not only that, it also signals to us how far we've come, because it indicates how Joel now implicitly accepts Ellie as his partner, and how Ellie's insecurity of proving herself to Joel has faded away, which is such a great payoff from that first time. But there's still more to be said here.
Alright. Give me your foot.
Okay.
Towards the very end of the game,
Get that door open.
Once we have fully let our guard down...
Look out! Ellie! You okay?
Yeah. It just surprised me.
The game does let us know that Joel's fears weren't as ridiculous as we took them to be. Ellie was always in danger every time we let her out of her reach. The Last of Us just so happens to feature a parent-child dynamic. And so naturally, it has scattered around all these valuable lessons about parenting. And we've already noted these as we've made our way through the story, about how kids need to be protected but cannot be shielded forever. So you have to teach them to deal with the darkness. Kids need affirmation and approval, but being overbearing can be disastrous as well. So you have to slowly teach them independence. Let kids learn new things, but also allow them to enjoy their youth, because soon the day will come when their innocence will fade, when they will see the world and you as you truly are, flaws and all. There is one final message we get from the boost mechanic, and it happens right here in this flashback. Joel offers to boost Ellie up, but she refuses, because obviously she's now tall enough to get there on her own. And it's kind of heartbreaking, a final lesson that your kid doesn't need you anymore. Ellie is not that little girl anymore. At one point, it seemed like Joel and Ellie will remain this close forever. But from here on out, Ellie is in her teenage years. She's building a life of her own, separate from Joel. And there's this growing resentment, rebellion, distance between her and Joel, because he's still lagging behind the changing tides.
Music store's up that way. You're gonna have to leave the horses here.
I don't think we can go this way.
What? Well, damn. Used to be able to swim across this.
The steady forward march of age and time provides a certain melancholy to this chapter. As we continue to jump ahead in time, leaving behind huge gaps to make up for, Ellie's journal keeps us updated on significant moments in her life. Through this journal, we learn that Ellie's made friends with a girl called Dina and a boy called Jesse. Not only that, Ellie has a girlfriend, this tattoo artist called Cat. Cat had her eye on Ellie even before the first flashback, and before the second one, Cat finally made her move, kissing Ellie. But Ellie flipped out, throwing her off, yelling at her, because in Ellie's mind, she's infected. However, turns out she isn't contagious. After making absolute sure of that, Ellie reciprocates and Cat becomes her girlfriend. Her first real romantic interest since Riley. Cat excuses Ellie's outburst because she thinks this was Ellie's first kiss, and Ellie might have problems accepting her sexuality. Which could be true. It's actually hard to say if all of this is an analogy for the gay experience or if it really is just about Ellie's immunity, but I think they're both being used in tandem here, because either way you read it, the point is that they both highlight the same core aspect of Ellie. You see, Ellie admires Cat. She's amazed at how open Cat is. She tells Jessie they're together. She tells her mother about Ellie. She kisses Ellie in front of her friends. Everyone seems to know, except for Joel.
Jesse and Dina are gonna lose their shit when they hear about this.
Let's deal with them two anyway. They're dating, right?
On and off. Why?
I hear the way Jesse talks about you.
No, Jesse and I are just friends.
No, I've got a pretty keen eye for these sort of things.
Not so keen with this one.
Through this conversation, we not only learned that Joel still hasn't realized Ellie's gay, but also that Ellie is very intentionally keeping this information from him. Ellie admires Cat because she can't be like her. She's afraid of how Joel will react. And as for where this insecurity could possibly be coming from, well, it comes from Joel.
I think I see a way through, but we got spores. Put your mask on.
Do I have to? It's just us.
What if we run into someone? You gotta be smart about this. You start wearing that mask, kiddo, and eventually you're gonna slip up in front of someone you shouldn't.
I've never slipped.
You ain't told nobody new, have you? Not Jesse or Dina or...
Of course not.
Okay, good.
Joel forces Ellie to hide her immunity. Obviously to protect her, but for Ellie, this is a part of her, a way in which she's not normal. Hiding it creates this shame in her. This is why I say both her queerness and her immunity are being used in tandem. Because the core point is, anything unique about Ellie, she feels the need to hide. But even on a broader scale than that, it's the constant lies and the pretense that are really starting to take a toll on Ellie. These unaddressed issues have begun to fester into something truly damaging. Ellie feels stuck, drifting in this meaningless, purposeless existence. But while a lot has changed for the worse, there is one aspect that remains unshaken. On the way to the music store, Joel and Ellie are attacked by groups of infected, including the most dangerous infected type, a bloater. And it's in these desperate moments where their primal instincts take over. Joel continues to put himself on the line for Ellie, proving once again that he will always take care of her. No matter how things change, no matter how far they drift apart, that pure familial love can never fade. So, while this second flashback has kept us guessing on what the outcome will be, this undeniable demonstration of parental love brings the relationship back to its peak. This bond can and has overcome everything except this. And so, in this final scene, Joel and Ellie are brought down to their lowest low to face their biggest hurdle.
Ellie!
Jackson represents a safe haven. So naturally, numerous refugees come and beg to join this community. But only 2 have ever willingly left it.
I think it's them.
A young couple who seem to have died here.
I think you're right.
Jackson is a wonderful place, but we got tired of hearing the stories of people suffering everywhere else. We wanted to save lives. We had good intentions. We didn't make it an hour before running into a horde. Now we're bitten. We've decided we're gonna end our lives instead of turning. Please tell our family and friends that we're sorry. Love, Adam and Sydney.
Just watch how Joel cares for these bodies. Notice how he expresses genuine grief hearing about their dreams being shattered. I mean, it's deeply uncharacteristic. In part 1, Joel encounters a similar note from a man called Ish. Basically, after the outbreak, Ish ran away to the sea and built a decent life for himself alone. But one day, on a whim, he chose to help a group of strangers, and together they built this community in the sewers, fortified with traps and guns, but also having classrooms with games and toys for the children. Ish became a leader of this community, and they continued to thrive until one day, one mistake by one individual doomed the whole community. In the end, Ish survived, alone once again, and forced to move on while carrying the pain of his loss. Upon reading this tragic tale, Joel has this to say.
Well, that wasn't a good idea, now was it?
Joel scoffed at those who preached hope, taunted those whose ideals eventually failed. Two teenagers running away to change the world with no plan, dying miles outside their home, can be laughed at. Another reinforcement of Joel's philosophy. But Joel pays his respects to their story. Perhaps he's grown softer in these years at Jackson. However, he's not the only one affected by the letter.
Only they were immune, right?
This story Ellie relates to as well, and it drags in those uncomfortable questions again. As Ellie once again pushes Joel for an answer to what happened in the hospital.
Why did you pull me out of there while I was still unconscious?
It's hard not to draw parallels to the ranch scene, where Ellie pushed and pushed Joel, charging through all his barriers. Although, unlike that time, Joel doesn't fight back. Ellie is all too easily able to corner him. Joel just doesn't seem to be that guy anymore. But then there's this moment where, in his desperation, Joel digs deep into that old mindset, and he reminds Ellie of what happens when you reach that final barrier.
There was no cure. There's nothing that could help these people or anybody else. I know you wish things were different. I wish things were different. But they ain't.
Joel will not yield. He will not face the truth. And Ellie backs off once more.
Good. Come on.
In the end, Joel and Ellie take the bodies back to Jackson, and the strings are abandoned. Two years before part 2, in the same year they have this fight, Ellie returns to the hospital to get the answers herself. I suppose one possibility we never considered would be that sometime after Joel's lie, Ellie would return to the hospital herself and have the remaining surgeons finish the surgery. But the hospital is empty. The fireflies are gone.
Why'd you all leave?
After Joel's rampage, the fireflies broke into two groups, and a vote was held between them. One group voted to disband the fireflies once and for all, disillusioned after having come so close, only to lose the cure. But the second group wanted to hunt Joel and Ellie down, partly to capture Ellie, partly to punish Joel. However, in the end, the first group won out, and so, at long last, the bearers of mankind's hope were no more. Ultimately, the deciding factor seemed to be that
Even if we found her, or by some miracle found someone else that's immune, it made no difference. Because the only person who could develop a vaccine is dead. Or by some miracle found someone else that's immune, it made no difference. Found someone else that's immune, it made no difference. Because the only person...
Joel arrives, worried.
Ellie!
And he hugs Ellie. This is the second time Joel and Ellie have ever hugged. The first time was after Ellie killed David, and Joel hugged her to comfort her. It marked the moment they became fully committed to each other, began this father-daughter bond. However, this second hug marks the moment their bond that was teetering on the brink
Goddamn no.
is finally severed.
Tell me, what happened here? If you lie to me one more time, I'm gone. You will never see me again. But if you tell me the truth, I'll go back to Jackson. No matter what it is. Just say it.
Joel's answer is the worst possible answer that Ellie could have hoped for. She tried to let it go but couldn't.
Swear to me that everything that you've said about the Fireflies is true.
Why did you pull me out of there while I was still unconscious?
She tried to push him for an answer, but was never going to get it out of him.
Come on. Come on.
It's crazy the damage a lie can cause, even a flimsy one like this. Joel told Ellie that there were others like her.
There's dozens, actually.
Something she knew had to be a lie.
I've never met another immune person before.
And yet, before Joel arrived,
Or by some miracle found someone else that's immune.
she kept replaying that part of the recording.
Found someone else that's immune.
Maybe she couldn't refute it completely. Maybe it lingered still, somewhere in the back of her mind. But here she finally confirmed it, and she sat with it. That obvious lie had stayed with her, messed with her, kept her in limbo. And now, the truth bursts open that dam, along with all the pent-up emotion.
Don't you fucking touch me! I'll go back. But we're done.
And so, in our last flashback, Joel and Ellie's relationship is destroyed. The bond is severed. At last, a full 4 years after The Last of Us Part 1, we finally arrive at current day, the beginning of The Last of Us Part 2. For the first time in a long time, we're going to spend a whole chapter away from Joel and Ellie. Consider their fallout to have caused a hard reset to our story. For this chapter, let's sit back and see what sort of life Ellie's built for herself in Jackson. We open with Ellie being woken up by a knock on the door. The Last of Us has a habit of introducing its protagonist this way. Ellie opens the door and her friend, Jessie, tells her she's late for patrol duty. So it looks like Ellie did get her wish in joining the patrol team. Ellie shuts the door to get her things, and from here, the game leaves us to explore Ellie's room. With the flashbacks, we were only given short glimpses into Ellie's life before being propelled forward to another point in time. Even the most recent flashback took place 2 years earlier. It's been a while since we've really caught up with Ellie. So this is where our story begins proper. This will be our Ellie from now on. Which is why the game is giving us this opportunity to let us get to know who this new Ellie is. And she might be a bit of a pig.
Smells fine.
One thing we'll learn is Ellie doesn't seem to care about how she looks.
Were you wearing those same clothes yesterday?
They're clean. Could be worse.
Although the art book for part 2 does shed some important light on this, describing Ellie's dress sense with words like simple, practical, and functional. The same words are used to describe a lot of characters in this story, because at the end of the day, they're all products of the world they live in. In the harsh, post-pandemic life of The Last of Us, a more luxurious style of fashion doesn't really make sense. The excesses our world demands have been cut out. So I guess Ellie's more practical than dirty.
It's patrol, you know? We're here to kill infected, not to look fancy.
Her room definitely reflects that. After moving to Jackson, Ellie chose to live in Joel's garage to get her own space. And despite living on her own, she's kept her room pretty clean. Notice all her items carefully labeled and organized into their own spaces. So we have a general sense of the room, but what about personality? Stuff that tells us this room is definitely Ellie's. Well, right next to the door, we see Anna's pocket knife lodged into the table, along with Ellie's boots and her gloves. With all those marks on the table, you can imagine Ellie coming back from her patrols exhausted, dropping her gear right at the door, and just stabbing the table with her pocket knife before going in. But that way, she can also move out in a rush if she ever needs to. Practical. Moving on, to the left we see a bunch of comic books laid out in front of the couch. We mentioned Ellie's fascination with comic books in the second flashback, how we used to scavenge for random issues for her in part 1. But that was hardly enough.
Right there. To be continued.
Having settled down in Jackson, though, means she can fully indulge in her obsession. And I'm not just talking about these. Behind us, on top of the shelf, is a box labeled comics. A bit further to the right is another box. More comics. Right again, and there are even more comics. Underneath all that is a PlayStation 3. The world ended in 2013, so the next one never came out. On the console, she seems to be playing Uncharted 2 and Jak and Daxter, games made by the same studio. And to the right of that is the guitar. Turn around, and above Ellie's bed are photographs and drawings of all the people she loves. You can see Jessie and Dina, Tommy and Joel, Cat, her new horse Shimmer, and even her old horse, Callus.
Stay, Callus. What kind of name is Callus anyways?
Not my fault you forgot to ask Tommy his name.
Callus was Ellie's horse for a short while in part 1, who was eventually shot and killed by David's men. But Ellie still honors Callus by placing him on this board along with her friends and family. And not to be mean, but given how dog shit the illustration is, you can tell she drew this a long time ago. One cool detail in the game is how you can see Ellie's art improve over the 4 years at Jackson. So Ellie's room is a reflection of her. We can see aspects of a trained, disciplined survivor, but also of an older teenager, obsessed with space, comic books, video games, and music. But we also find a person who's learned to cherish the people in her life. Death and loss have been a constant in Ellie's life. And the inclusion of Callus on the board signifies how Ellie's still trying to cling to everyone who's passed. Ellie believes all of this violence, not just of the infected, is a consequence of her still being alive. Ellie's heirlooms have increased over the course of the story. Next to her desk, you'll notice an item that clashes with the rest of the room. This is Sam's toy, the one Ellie stole for him. Even after his death, Ellie keeps it around as a reminder of him. Similarly, on the shelf are her old joke books, the ones Riley gifted her. It's hinted at in the flashbacks and also later on in the story that Ellie's long since lost interest in those books. But she's kept those around as well, probably for Riley's sake. And that leaves us with a question. Before, Ellie's heirlooms symbolized her regaining her identity. Each one she acquired revealed more about herself. But these ones seem to do the opposite. In this space that speaks to so much about Ellie, these items stand out harshly. Something's changed along the way in what these heirlooms represent.
Okay.
As we finally make our way outside, Ellie grabs her jacket, her gun, her Walkman, and of course,
Sure.
her journal. When you get to open it, it reads, "Tonight was crazy. I feel scared, elated, anxious. Just gotta sleep it off." The way all these items had been laid out suggests that Ellie burst into her room last night, threw her jacket off on the chair and wrote this down before passing out on her bed and oversleeping. Last night must have been eventful.
Heads up, you're the talk of the town this morning.
What?
Having left Ellie's room, our world expands just a bit. And now we're ushered in to explore Ellie's home, Jackson. In the first game, we only saw part of Jackson, namely the power plant and the dam. But here we're properly introduced to the homes, the shops, the people, and to the culture of this place, while also still putting together what happened the night before.
Let me see if I got this right. You kissed Dina,
She kissed me.
which triggered Seth to call you a not-so-nice word.
Yep.
Then Joel decked him,
More of a push.
and then you got mad at Joel.
You all right, kiddo?
What is wrong with you?
He had no right.
And you do? I don't need your fucking help, Joel.
That part confused me.
It was a strange night, man.
So a lot's happened, which we'll get to, but Jesse's comment about Ellie being the talk of the town.
Went on between them before. That's why she and Jesse broke up.
That's just how girls are.
Here she comes. Shh. Oh, hey, Ellie.
Morning.
It gives us a sense of the peace that exists within Jackson, that the people here could gossip about something so trivial. While Jackson absolutely proves itself to be a well-organized, well-fortified community with greenhouses for farming, ammo shops, horse stables, and logbooks for patrols, which you'd expect, there's also, curiously, a lot more here. In Jackson, we see kids roam around carefree, playing in the snow. There are schools they go to, daycares available for them. The kids here are able to live a normal life. It's a wonderful achievement. While previously we played as a smuggler, moving from place to place, here we're given a sense of long-term stability. There are shops set up at every corner, even decorated. An old man sits leisurely, strumming away at his banjo. This character is modeled after the game's music composer, Gustavo Santaolalla. And this old dog we pet is Buckley, who was named after the dog of Joel's voice actor. And we've actually met Buckley before, in part 1.
That's a good boy.
Tommy pretty concisely sums up his role.
Not much of a guard dog, but he's good to have around.
In Jackson, there's an emphasis on numerous independent, moving parts, imbuing the town with life through detail. Each person here feels like they have a life of their own, and struggles of their own.
I can't ask people to go out of their way like that.
Are you gonna fix your roof by yourself? Don't be ridiculous.
I just feel guilty. Ever since we lost Sydney, everyone wants to help all the time.
It's not about that.
At first, there's not much to take from this conversation, but doesn't that name sound familiar?
Please tell our family and friends that we're sorry. Love, Adam and Sydney.
Ever since we lost Sydney, everyone wants to help all the time.
This is the father of one of the teenagers that ran away, whose body Joel and Ellie discovered and brought back to Jackson. The dad is ashamed and still in grief, but the people of Jackson are showering him with love to override that.
We're your friends. Y'all come stay with us until the hole's patched up. It'll get done before you know it.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
It really conveys how small yet close-knit this community is. And it's not just in this case. You'll notice everywhere the constant talk of favors and coming together to help each other out. And that's because there's no currency in Jackson. It literally runs on goodwill. There are bulletin boards all throughout Jackson with notes plastered over them asking for help, but with no rewards listed. Often it's simple volunteer work. Even the shops don't ask for money. At most, there'll be a trade. Jackson is bizarre. Real bizarre. And to explain just how bizarre it is, we'll have to return to the world at large. Up until now, in the 2 previous acts, and even in the old part 1 video, we've largely ignored the different factions that have formed all over the world since the outbreak. And that's because the characters we inhabited couldn't have cared less about that. Ellie was a rebel and Joel an anomaly. Neither was concerned with what these groups were nor what they were about. And yet now they've both settled into this community and have even grown to establish themselves as key parts of it. You have to wonder why this one and why not the others. What is so special about Jackson compared to the rest? One of the defining features of the world of The Last of Us is that the people in this world have divided themselves into different factions. And the more this franchise grows, the more we're being invited to compare and contrast the different groups that inhabit it. Because it wants you to see that the person that you are, what you believe in, even your own morals, are not all in your hands. Each of us is influenced by where we happen to be born or where we happen to grow up and the factors that give form to that place. To get an idea of how world building is conveyed in The Last of Us and to get an idea of the state of the world itself, in this section we're going to be comparing two groups we've previously encountered. David's group, the Cannibals, and the Hunters. Firstly, location is one of the biggest factors that shape a group because the crucial decisions stem from here. For example, David and his men chose to live in a resort, which, as the HBO showrunner explained, was a miscalculation. Because while in the spring they may have enjoyed plentiful meat, along with beautiful lakes and trees, and these large, comfortable lodges were able to house a sizable community, as the season would turn, all of this would dry up, and the resort would become unrecognizable. The David we met was in a particularly tough spot.
This winter has been especially cruel.
With a decision to make on how to feed his people. Similarly, Pittsburgh, the city where we encountered the Hunters, used to be a place ravaged by war. A key location where the two largest factions, Fedra and the Fireflies, both held interest. Although in the end, both these groups were ousted by the rebels they themselves radicalized. But in the aftermath, Pittsburgh is left starved for resources with a group that only knows war. So now we have two different groups left in two very similar situations. This is where leadership comes in, for it's they who make the critical decisions that set the tone and culture of the whole group. In part 1, we read about the major turning point for the rebels in Pittsburgh. One day, 3 teenagers are held on trial for looting and killing a family that happened to wander into the city. But shockingly, instead of punishing them, the leader thanked them for, quote, procuring supplies for the group, after which he commanded every other rebel to do the same from now on. When 2 of them rose in protest of this new law, they were swiftly taken out for it. And from that point on, the directive was set. Those who wander into this city, regardless of whether they're women or children or old men, every outsider who comes will henceforth be labeled tourists. And these tourists are to be trapped inside, hunted down, and taken for all they have. For we are the Hunters. The rebel group gained its new identity. When it comes to David, we've already discussed him pretty extensively in Act 2, but there are some interesting aspects that come to light when you compare his group to the Hunters. Because while both leaders clearly had the same goal to make their group stronger,
it's just gonna make our group stronger. Stronger survivors.
they both went about it in very different ways. You could say the Hunters believed in the survival of the fittest.
If you haven't noticed, they don't keep kids around. Survival of the fittest. Ugh.
Just about every hunter we meet is a strong young male, and that brings with it a certain attitude.
Keep hiding, sucker!
There's a sort of crudeness in the way the hunters speak, and real cruelty in their actions. The hunters would mercilessly track down and execute women and children. To them, they were simply burdens. But on the other hand, David's group did have women and children, and they were a burden on them.
I need you to round up everyone who isn't armed and get them clear out of here.
Extra mouths to feed, in a time where meat was scarce.
Women, children, they're all very, very hungry.
Why would David, who valued strength, keep them? It's interesting. In the hunters, you can see strength and capability. They'd set up traps for tourists, they fortified their main access point heavily, and in a shootout they'd goad you, flank you. As crude and heartless as the hunters were, they were smart. But David's men were almost the opposite. You'd think that a chapter trying to emphasize Ellie's loneliness and weakness would put similar enemies in front of us, but no. Here's us walking in on the hunters taking out the clicker.
I got it! Nicely done.
Now here's us walking in on David's men fighting clickers.
Shit! What the hell?
Whereas the hunters had clear autonomy, for better or worse,
See that shit?
Not bad.
David's men didn't even know what they were fighting for.
What the hell are we doing here? Who gives a fuck about that old man and a little girl?
And that comes down to their leaders. The hunter leader only gave his men a simple directive, but David kept making plays on his own, keeping his people in the dark. Only a few in his group were entrusted with the knowledge that they were eating human meat, and only one was entrusted to be his right-hand man. James embodied what these grunts were like. People constantly looking towards David for direction, but at the same time, immature, letting their emotions get the better of them, not seeing the bigger picture. Though ultimately,
Lower the gun.
still obedient. And that's why David kept them, because at the end of the day, he could control them. Just listen to David talk about James after Ellie kills him. You'll find that dual meaning again.
You know, I really wish you hadn't killed James. He was a good kid, just doing his job.
On one hand, good kid makes it feel like he genuinely cared for James. But on the other, when he expands on that, it makes it feel like he only valued James because of his obedience. So, it wasn't David's kindness that kept women and children around, it was his narcissism. Which again explains his dealings with Ellie. Despite seeing the potential in her, he couldn't let her join without taming her. Ultimately, David believed himself invincible. He believed his group's strength lied in devotion to him. And so finally, we get the complete picture. The cannibals and the hunters both sought strength. But while the hunters gained it through autonomy, David believed it came through obedience. Two groups so similar, yet so completely different from each other. Exactly what we saw in Act 1. To circle this whole thing back, we began this segment with the goal of gaining a better understanding of the world of The Last of Us. We've now discussed the hunters and the cannibals, and we've talked about Fedra and the Fireflies before that. And in both pairs, we uncovered the same story. The world of The Last of Us is so divided because each faction vehemently disagrees with each other. But ironically, they're all basically the same. Fedra and the Fireflies proposed different solutions, but essentially, they both wanted to save humanity. The hunters and David's men had different methodologies, but they both sought to strengthen their groups. Mix and match into any pair you like, and you'll get a similar story. Because at the end of the day, the ultimate goal of every faction is survival. Survival of their own us. The Last of Us has been touted to be a love story. Love is the one thread that weaves its way through every disparate element of the story, the one theme that connects it all together. But The Last of Us's definition of love is a bit unique. If we're being honest with ourselves, our love can be selective. Our love isn't shared in equal measure. And that's where the concept of the us comes in, of the few whom we've allowed into our circle. And in the world of The Last of Us, this has escalated to such an extreme that the people within it have shut themselves up into their own circles, with their goals simply only to ensure the survival of the ones within it. And that is why this last faction is so odd. To at last answer the question we posed at the start, what makes Jackson so bizarre, what makes Jackson so special, is that survival doesn't seem to be the primary goal of this town. In terms of location, while we had David's group who were deemed unlucky, a visitor from another town comments about Jackson.
They got lucky with that power plant.
And it does make you realize that, yeah, electricity is not very common in this world. And yet, this precious resource is being used to throw parties, play video games, and hold movie nights. Later on, Ellie and Jesse meet up with Maria.
Be nice to her, she sorta runs things around here.
And we see that Maria is not like any leader we've seen until now. Because where others were ruthless, or mysterious, or commanding, or propagandistic, Maria's here wasting her time trying to get Ellie to make up with Seth because he called her a slur last night. Later on, she even tries to get Ellie to forgive Joel.
Maria, Guy really cares about you. And I'm sure he didn't mean to.
We're fine.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So between resolving petty issues, putting up shops, decorations, and daycares, allowing in visitors and refugees, along with old men and dogs who can't fight, clearly, survival doesn't seem to be the highest priority here. Therefore, we now question, what is the philosophy of Jackson? Outside of Jackson in the heavy snow, we find a letter from a man who was traveling with his wife and 3 kids. In the letter, the man talks about how his family was attacked by raiders who stole their possessions and killed his wife and eldest son. The man sits here with his remaining family, starving, waiting out the storm, until he hears gunshots in the distance. Still remaining true to his faith, despite what he's been through, the man follows the sounds, writing, "Hopefully we'll find people. Hopefully they'll be kind." The man who wrote this letter would have his fate repaid, as he would be accepted as a refugee in Jackson. We know this because the man who wrote the letter was Seth.
Oh, just what this town needs. Another loudmouth dyke.
And listen, I know this letter doesn't do much to redeem Seth in many people's eyes, but that's not what this is about. This letter is simply a reminder that he's human. And that's a reminder that we need when we get too lost in these discussions of tribes and factions. There's this othering of Seth when we see him call Ellie a slur. And there's this frustration with Maria when we see her asking Ellie to forgive him. But perhaps this kindness is what this world needs. because all of these people, as humanity, are in this mess together. And it seems that only Jackson can see the bigger picture. Our main takeaway from Act 1 was appreciate the people you love while you still have them. Our main takeaway from Act 2 was it's not enough to be able to survive, you need to be able to live. Jackson is the embodiment of both those messages. Jackson has been described as The Last of Us's Utopia, which is a huge statement. Considering how morally grey this story is, Jackson is the closest thing to a return to civilization, a place where you're not just made to feel safe, but where you can also build a home, get an education, pursue art. A place where you're given the freedom to find your purpose and make memories with loved ones. There are real parts of themselves the cast and developers have put into this place, which shows how fond they are of it. Now, I wouldn't say that Jackson is meant to be the correct answer or the solution to the apocalypse, and I'm sure that's not what it's even intended to be. Each of the groups we've been presented with are right in their own ways on how to proceed. Some would certainly argue that theirs is a more realistic approach to the apocalypse, and they'd be right in some ways, but Jackson represents something that transcends that, because it resonates with so many messages we've come to learn, and it resonates with Joel and Ellie as a place they can believe in. To conclude this section, let's just make one more note about Jackson. Because to simply argue that Jackson is better than the rest because it's nicer to people, it doesn't feel right. There's another piece here, one that we've overlooked. If you revisit certain parts of Jackson with a more tactical perspective, you'll realize that perhaps Jackson's kindness isn't naivety, but strategy. Even though Buckley isn't much of a fighter, keeping him around fulfills a symbolic purpose, because this friendly old dog represents the values and the longevity of this town, providing a morale boost to the people. And the same can be said with the schools and the daycares. Maria going around resolving petty issues is to prevent these petty issues from escalating. Too much comfort within can lead to internal strife. But the most interesting and concerning example of this comes in the bar. Right before meeting up with Maria, we overhear another patrol group talk about an infected horde possibly forming outside Jackson. They say that when they informed Maria about it, she told them to keep it to themselves, while she sends a smaller squad out to deal with it.
When you go out, I want you to trade off with Tommy and Joel. Those boys have been up for far too long.
This calls back to the theme of lies in The Last of Us. Just as parents tell lies to their children to protect them, leaders tell lies to their followers to protect them. These lies are covers meant to hide complicated truths. Maria tells the patrol squad to lie to maintain the goodwill inside this town, because she knows that it's this goodwill that keeps Jackson running. Maria's doing what she feels is best, but what will be the effect of that lie? From Ellie's room to the town of Jackson, in the next part of this chapter, our world is going to expand once more to the outside of Jackson, where this horde is accumulating. On one of the bulletin boards where the residents put in their requests is a note that reads, "Whoever stole Japan's blanket, bring it back, he's getting cold. Don't be an ass." This is Dina, Jesse's girlfriend, now ex-girlfriend, and the one who kissed Ellie last night. When they meet up again, there's an obvious bit of awkwardness between the two, but while Dina is willing to talk about it,
I shouldn't have kissed you in front of all of those people.
No, you were drunk, it's fine.
Ellie dismisses the whole thing away.
No, I'm not reading into it or anything.
Ellie, for some reason, is shutting Dina out, and it's unclear why. But later, Jesse assigns both of them to the same patrol together, maybe to give them an opportunity to find a spark.
Yeah.
And so, while we started this whole Act 3 with the intent to explore Joel and Ellie's relationship, we're going to end it exploring Dina and Ellie's relationship and tying it into what this has all been about.
Come on. This way.
Outside of Jackson, on this patrol, Dina picks up from before, continuing to poke and probe Ellie to let her in, while Ellie continues to resist her. Though there are moments where Dina sneaks through. And this constant back and forth sets up the final question of this whole act. Are Ellie and Dina going to end up together? And that, I'm sure, feels really anticlimactic. After all that we've been through, why would we, at the climax of this arc, care about this? Well, it's because in answering this question, we would also have to answer that other, more important question you've likely had since the moment we've started this chapter. What is wrong with Ellie? I don't even need to play a clip to prove it. You've surely noticed just from her body language since the start of this chapter that this Ellie is so guarded. The Ellie we remember used to be so carefree and open, honest and brave. But this Ellie seemed to have lost that spunkiness and has put up some barriers of her own. That more restrained version of Ellie, one we only occasionally saw in the previous acts, seems to have taken over completely. There are a couple reasons for that, and these interactions between Ellie and Dina bring those reasons to light. We start with Ellie and Dina discussing both their breakups, Dina with Jesse and Ellie with Cat, and neither really has anything bad to say about them. It's just that they weren't the right people. Maybe Dina and Ellie really only ever had eyes for each other. So then, why haven't they gotten together in all these years? We know from the second flashback that Ellie and Dina have been friends for a very long time now, almost since the day Ellie joined Jackson. But what we haven't discussed is that there's been this lingering romantic tension between them throughout. From what we can gather, Dina has liked Ellie for a long time, but never found the courage to make a move. The closest she ever got was on this particular night. While out on a trip with their friends, Ellie and Dina found themselves alone by the bonfire, and Ellie sang this song for Dina. It's when Ellie sings that you can see Dina's love for her most clearly, because Dina's love for Ellie stems from Ellie's own love for art. She's genuinely interested in what Ellie can create.
There are original Ellie songs? Why haven't you played any for me?
This night by the bonfire was most likely the point where they realized their feelings for each other. And later we learned that Dina regretted not making her move in that moment.
You should have kissed me then.
She would regret it because, as we know, soon after, Cat would kiss Ellie, and Ellie would start a relationship with her instead. From this point on, Dina would try to move on from Ellie. In her journal, Ellie wrote about how Dina stopped hanging out with her, and it's around this time as well that Dina started dating Jesse. And so, about 2 years ago, the doors slammed shut on their relationship. Despite their attraction for each other, it seemed they'd both miss their opportunity. Until now. With both their breakups, Dina and Ellie are able to talk without reservations about their love lives.
Hey, how come we never talked about this stuff?
Suddenly, they've been presented with a second chance, which Dina does not intend to waste again. Ellie, as caged up as she is, will never make the first move. The only reason Cat got her was because she was more forward than Dina. So Dina, funny enough, almost exactly follows the same playbook. Cat started by lightly touching Ellie's arm, dropping hints that she likes her. Now Dina touches Ellie's arm, dropping hints that she likes her. In both cases, however, Ellie was too insecure to follow through. So just like Cat, Dina kisses Ellie to make her feelings crystal clear. But unlike with Cat, this time it's still not enough for Ellie.
It was just Dina being Dina. She didn't mean anything by it.
Ellie seems to be especially guarded against Dina, more than Cat. And it's because she likes her more. Read back on how Ellie talked about Cat, and you'll realize that these were more so feelings of admiration. But with Dina, the history, the longing, the intimacy, it is real love. With Dina, we see embers of the old Ellie, throwing quips and making jokes.
You want to see something spectacular?
You're gonna point at your face, aren't you?
Nothing is that spectacular.
Ellie looks much more comfortable with her than with anyone else we've seen so far, and they make a great team. While Joel and Ellie's relationship in combat was clearly that of a leader and his support, here it's different. Dina and Ellie plan together. They watch each other's backs. And in another progression of the boost mechanic, we see for the first time Ellie giving a boost. Everything we see indicates that these are two proper partners. And yet, we mustn't forget that these are also two teenagers, still too young to be leading a life like this. Towards the end of this chapter, a storm picks up, cutting their adventure short and prompting Dina and Ellie to take shelter. Once inside, they decide to blow off patrol, smoke some weeds, until Dina takes this chance to corner Ellie.
Scale of 1 to 10. How would you rate our kiss from last night?
Ellie says,
"Why are we still talking about this? You said it was a mistake."
Which isn't actually true.
Did I say that? I shouldn't have kissed you in front of all of those people.
And so once again, we're left wondering, why is Ellie like this? Why is she so dismissive of Dina's advances? And the surface level reason is, Ellie doesn't want to ruin her friendship with Dina. But one step deeper than that, and we can say she's afraid of being vulnerable.
You gotta be smart about this.
Ellie has had to hide the truth about herself for years now.
You ain't told nobody new, have you? Not Jesse or Dina.
The lies she's had to tell have festered into this. But the last, most important reason is Ellie's exhausted. You and I have been on this massive journey with Ellie starting from the very, very beginning. So you know that we've been through this before. Twice now, Ellie's pushed herself, laid herself bare, broken through and found her person. And twice now, that's ended in heartbreak. When two individuals connect so intimately, it's almost impossible for them to be completely aligned with each other. And so we have to go through this messy process of reaching out to them, lowering our own barriers, trying to understand them while coming to terms with parts of our own selves. Fighting, growing distant, coming back, only to realize that it won't ever be like it used to, but trying still. And all for what? Moments of bliss, followed by a lifetime of pain. It's a cruel cycle, it is, but it's one that's better than all the others. It's one that brings the best out of us. The reason why this last question is so important is because we're really asking, can Ellie move on, let go of the past, and restart this cycle for a third time? Dina has everything to make her that third person. This person has sat patiently on the sidelines all this time, waiting for Ellie, telling her she's willing to take on all this burden with her. Maybe she's the only one who could have broken through to Ellie to have her believe again. In the end, Ellie finally leans in and the two go ham. In the aftermath, we see Ellie and Dina lying down together discussing their scars. That is, their vulnerabilities. Dina shares her story.
I fell on my knife.
And then she turns to give Ellie this look. And after a long pause,
Okay.
Ellie obliges.
The chemical burn.
So what's been happening with Ellie's bite is something we haven't discussed till now, but it's all been progressing right in front of us. 5 years ago, in Left Behind, Ellie's arm was bit, leaving behind just a clear bite mark. 4 years ago, in part 1, the infection on her arm had spread but stopped spreading at this point. And that's how it remained until the flashbacks. On the night she got the guitar, notice how Ellie's arm had been bandaged up. Ellie had burned herself with chemicals.
I did it myself. Why?
There's no reason given, at least in the games, as to why she went through with such a painful route to hide the scar. But safe to say, it can't have come from the best mental state. Although since then, she's tried to move on, asking Cat to tattoo over the burn with something beautiful. Over the course of the 3 flashbacks, we can actually follow the progression of the tattoo until it reaches its completed form here. Ellie tells Dina everything about the bite, the burn, the tattoo, and about her immunity. For the first time in 4 years, Ellie divulges her biggest secret to someone new. Dina has become Ellie's third person, and Ellie understands what that means. This confession is a testament to how much Ellie's willing to commit to this relationship. Although Dina doesn't believe her, but eventually she will. And thus ends the penultimate act of this series, Act 3. And I'll say it, some of you right now may feel underwhelmed by this one. This act has been a lot of sitting back and reflecting, and a lot of meandering here and there. The 2 acts before seemed much more streamlined, way more action-packed, and each had an easily discernible theme. Act 1 was about who Ellie is. For that, we started at the very beginning, with her birth. This is where we learned about Ellie's nature, her innate fighting spirit, inherited from her mother. And then we talked about her early childhood, learning about Ellie's nurture, about the people and places, the ideas and experiences that shaped her. Act 1 laid down a solid foundation of who this character is. And then Act 2 built on that. Act 2 had Ellie leave the quarantine zone and head out into the world to face the dangers within. This act was about the sink or swim moments, which would either crush Ellie or force her to become a more capable person. All of the frightening, terrifying outside threats that felt untouchable in Act 1, Ellie would have to confront head on. Act 2 pushed her physically, emotionally, and spiritually to the brink. But in the end, Ellie rose above it and emerged stronger than before. So what's the theme of Act 3? Well, if you followed far enough to get to an Act 3, I think it's safe to say that you like Ellie. By this point, you've seen Ellie make mistakes, suffer, change and persevere, find love, deal with loss, and everything in between. The driving force that's kept us going through all that is the wish to finally see Ellie happy. And surely by now, she's had enough tests. Surely now, she doesn't need to prove herself any more than she has. Ellie deserves to live happily ever after, or whatever is closest to it in this story. A normal and peaceful life, that would be our wish for Ellie. But then again, ask yourself, would Ellie ever accept that? This is the thread that runs through Act 3 across each section. Act 3 has been about Ellie learning to live a normal life. Because in this act, she's been provided with everything. A great community, a growing family, time to hash out things with Joel, and a special new person to move on with. There really isn't much more we could have asked for, and yet she could not embrace it. By placing Ellie in this environment, Act 3 highlighted clearer than ever before how much Ellie's survivor's guilt has crippled her ability to move on with her life. Ellie believes she should already be dead. But there is so much more to Ellie than her immunity. Across these 4 years of peace, we talked about Ellie feeling lost, stagnant, wandering without purpose, when in fact, she has grown immensely. Across these 4 years, Ellie's art has improved. She's learned to play the guitar. She's started singing and writing songs. Ellie has grown, just not in the ways deemed important in this world. It's funny, one of Ellie's greatest breakthroughs comes in the most unexpected of places. Throughout The Last of Us, we get these small, subtle moments that convey a character's anxieties, like Joel and his constant nightmares. Ellie has had something similar. In Left Behind, while living in Fedra's quarantine zone, we mentioned that Ellie used to sleep with her pocket knife under her pillow. An indication of how afraid she still is of this world. This fear, we identify it as a core aspect of Ellie's character, a part of her she just wasn't able to shake. So imagine how monumental it is that here in Jackson, Ellie sleeps with her pocket knife all the way there next to the door. And unlike Joel who'd abruptly wake up startled, Ellie oversleeps, waking up gently. You would think that Fedra, with its towering walls, trained soldiers, and ruthless commitment to humanity's survival, would at least have made Ellie feel safe, but she never did. So what happened? When was it that Ellie changed and stopped fearing the world? It's not exactly Jackson that makes Ellie feel safe, it's Joel. In part 1, Ellie tells Joel that only with him has she ever felt safe. And you see that. With Joel there, Ellie becomes much more adventurous and brave to the point of being reckless even, because she can rest easy knowing that Joel will do everything to save her. Joel has pulled off insane feats to protect Ellie. Something awakens within Joel when Ellie is in danger. It's interesting that though it's been years since their fallout, Ellie still lives in Joel's garage. She still craves his safety. So I guess to close the chapter on parent-child dynamics, we can say that even after growing out of the relationship, a child will always need its parents. Though it may not have ended well between Joel and Ellie, the game does grant us the slightest bit of hope of a possible reconciliation between the two. On the guitar Joel gives Ellie is an image of a moth. That same image is what Ellie chooses to tattoo over her arm. The moth becomes a symbol of the permanent connection between Joel and Ellie. The very first shot of The Last of Us Part 2 focuses on the image of the moth, emphasizing the importance of this symbol. Therefore, there is hope that maybe in the future, Ellie will forgive Joel. A perfect end to their story. Over the course of our journey, we've marked several different stopping points, and this conclusion would very well have been the end of the story as a whole. Basically moments where it would have been alright if the story ended. It would have been a happy ending. Everything seems to have fallen in place now. The story should be coming to a close. Although each time, The Last of Us has instead followed up with something even more horrifying. A greater test to push its characters further. However, time and again, Ellie overcame it. And each time she did that, she reached new heights. She grew bulletproof. Ellie has fought, suffered, and struggled to get to this point. This moment, the end of Act 3, is the best stopping point. Looking at everything we've just laid out, this right here is the happiest ending we may ever get in the story, which is why we don't. This is The Last of Us. Instead of a happy ending, what we are about to witness is the story's most brutal, most merciless test. As seasoned and mature Ellie has become, there is the tiniest crack in her character. The tiniest crack that we've only caught glimpses of until now. And for its final act, The Last of Us Part 2 is going to target it and blow it wide open. Everything until now has all led up to this, the beginning of the end. On this day, something happens that throws everything into disarray.
Jesse? Just stay there, okay?
Are you okay?
Will you wait, please? What? Just turn around. What are you doing?
Are you kidding me?
Throughout Act 3 were these seemingly innocent indicators spelling doom.
You're supposed to be on patrol.
There's a blizzard outside.
Is that weed?
Why are you here?
People are counting on you, you get that? What we do matters.
Well, then why aren't you at the fucking lookout?
Because Tommy and Joel didn't show up.
What do you mean?
Murmurs in Jackson about a swarm of infected. Maria sending a small squad out to deal with it. Joel growing softer. Jackson showing kindness to strangers.
Hey, I'm Tommy. That's Joel. What's your name?
Abby.
Abby, are you okay?
And some ominous displays we encountered back in the first flashback of wolves stalking their prey.
Tommy, we cannot stay here! The horses ain't making it all that way!
My friends are at a mansion just north of here. It's fenced in, we have the whole perimeter secured.
They scared us.
I know. How you guys doing?
We're good. Thanks.
Yeah.
In particular, there's this one display.
What are y'all doing out this way?
I'm just passing through.
You two live nearby?
We do. A few hours down the hill. Y'all should come back with us, restock before you head out.
Appreciate it. I'm Mel, by the way.
Tommy.
The image of a moose.
This is my brother.
Joe.
Surrounded by a pack of wolves.
Y'all act like you heard of us or something.
One attacks the hind leg.
Because they have.
Laura, all clear?
He's out.
Put him against the wall.
Tommy!
Joel!
Joel Miller.
Who are you?
Guess.
Why don't you say whatever speech you got rehearsed? Get this over with.
Oh, shit.
You stupid old man. You don't get to rush this.
Fuck.
Pin her down!
Get off me!
Get her hand!
Get the fuck off me!
You got her! Look, you got her! Okay?
You're gonna fucking die!
What's going on?
Let him go!
Who is that?
Let him
She
go!
snuck in.
Why aren't you posted up outside?
We didn't think anyone was gonna show up.
What the hell did you expect? We gotta get out of here before the whole town's on top of us. You're done.
You want what I want, right?
End it. Now.
Joel, get up. Joel, fucking get up. Please stop. Please don't do this. Joel, please get up.
Joel is killed in The Last of Us Part 2. A mysterious group comes to take his life, then vanishes. However, they make one mistake. On their backpacks were badges that reveal who they were. Washington Liberation Front, WLF, Wolf. These were the people who killed Joel. With this information, justice can still be served. Revenge can still be sought against these people. And on the one who orchestrated it all, Abby. If Act 1 was about who Ellie is innately, Act 2 about her growing into a more capable person, Act 3 about learning to live a normal life, then this final act threatens to undo all of that. From this point on, everything that Ellie was, everything she could be is brought to a standstill. All that remains now is hate. If Part 1 was a story about love, Part 2 will be a story about hate. This was the big tagline for The Last of Us Part 2. Joel embodied The Last of Us's definition of love, the need to fight for your own us. His death signals the change to hate. Till now, every element of the story has been centered around love. Each person and faction we encountered in part 1 would commit the acts they did to protect their own us, whether that be themselves, their family, their comrades, their community, or perhaps even all of humanity itself. Even the largest conflict thus far only came about due to a simple clash of ideals, not out of hate for each other. Part 1 had this approach because Joel was the protagonist, whom the game was built around, and no one captured that concept better than Joel himself. Joel had always been linked to the revolver. His kills were quick, cold, and distant. There was a pragmatism to it. When Joel killed, there was no malice behind it, just an understanding of what must be done. This is what separates love from hate. Notice how every execution in part 1, however bone-chilling, was never shown to be personal. There was always a point to the violence inflicted. However, one chapter where hate did creep into the story.
Those were my friends you killed, asshole. No way, David. I'm not gonna let her go.
James told me it's the girl from the university. How many of our guys were killed there?
Was the one in which Ellie took over as protagonist.
You're a fucking animal.
Ellie has always been linked to her switchblade. The switchblade mirrors Ellie. It's small, it's flexible, but also to attack with a switchblade means you have to get up close and personal, and the results are much more visceral. When you think about it, the most brutal kill in all of part 1 came from Ellie, the most hate-fueled. This is the one crack in Ellie's character. This is the dark side to that innate fire and rage we've admired so. Ellie dehumanizes her enemies. Ellie's ego is attached to her kills. Think about the origin of both Joel and Ellie's weapons. The revolver itself held no meaning for Joel. It was just something he kept around the house in case of emergencies, and he only loaded it up and fired it when his daughter's life was threatened. To Joel, the revolver was simply a tool to help him protect his loved ones. But the switchblade for Ellie evoked sentimentality, questions of identity and purpose. From the moment it was introduced, Ellie's ego was fixed to it before she ever even got to use it. There are complicated, unpacked emotions associated with Ellie's kills. And that is whom part 2 is built around. In order to accommodate its new protagonist, the sequel makes several drastic shifts to its landscape. While part 1 focused on the us, factions of part 2 are obsessed with them. Instead of these struggling factions fighting for survival, we now have massive, xenophobic tribes hell-bent on destroying one another. This is what defines hate in relation to love. Now, you're not just trying to protect your own. When it comes to hate, the goal itself is to cause harm. And so even the combat system makes the necessary changes to reflect that. Part 1 had us starved for resources. Ammo and supplies would be so scarce that battles would often boil down to choices of what to craft, what ammo to unload, how much, leading to these desperate scrambles to come out alive. But part 2 has resources plentiful, while introducing the kinds of weapons that invite us to toy with the enemy. Perhaps the greatest difference in terms of presentation in both games is that part 1 would pull away from or even block dramatic moments, most often with a simple cut to black. A horrifying event would occur immediately interrupted by a cut to black, after which we'd find ourselves transported to the next section of the story. A huge gap is left in between, and we're not allowed access to it, because that's how Joel dealt with trauma. He would bury it and move on. But Ellie couldn't. Ellie kind of feels everything. She's always been different in that way. Every loss she carries with her, every lie looms over her. She doesn't know how to let go. Death weighs on Ellie. Therefore, unlike part 1, part 2 leans into its dramatic moments. We, as Ellie's companions in this story, will be plunged into several long, painful sequences, exposed to all sorts of unbridled emotions and relentless depravity. This journey is not going to be pretty.
I'm gonna find. And I'm gonna kill. Every last one of them.
So that's hate. The Last of Us Part 2 was marketed as being a game about hate. And while we can simply move on to the next section with that one simple goal in mind, we would be very wrong to do so. Thing is, when the developers marketed Part 2 as a game about hate, I think they underestimated how wholly audiences would latch on to those lenses. Even now, years after its release, almost all of the discussions surrounding the game still revolve around the themes of revenge and hate. But in doing so, we've shoved other, more important conversations to the background. Whereas I believe their true goal was for audiences to look for something deeper, beyond these words. Because there is more going on here. And it's because of that, I think, that since the game's release, the creators have actually walked back from that tagline, asking us to consider more. And even going on to restate that The Last of Us as a whole is still and always will be a story about love. Part 1 was an honest exploration of love. Instead of presenting love as this purely positive force, the game opened our eyes to multiple facets of it, like how selective love is, how disarming it can be, how it can lead us to commit atrocities. We were shown the dark side of love, along with the light, and they still claim to be doing that. Perhaps this journey into hate isn't an inversion of our journey into love, but simply an extension of it. Although, you could ask, what difference does it make? Whether love and hate are opposite sides of the same coin, or if one feeds into another, it shouldn't make a difference. The goal is still killing Abby. But looking at even that goal from the perspective of love, it should open our eyes to what we actually want. Because it's not revenge, it's not hate, not really. Hate is just the reflex, the surface level. Think deeper. At the core, at the heart of it, we just want to make peace with this loss. Joel's death is one of the worst deaths imaginable. But purposefully so. By design, we're meant to feel enraged and disgusted by what's been done to him. Joel, our Joel, was disrespected, tortured, spat on. He wasn't even allowed any last words. That part really messes with you. The more you sit on how it all ended, slowly all these questions begin to eat at you. Ellie, in her journal, wonders if her being there in Joel's final moments brought him comfort. Or did it bring shame, having Ellie see him be humiliated like that? Did Joel die thinking they were gonna kill Tommy and Ellie too? the two people he loved most in this world. That little gesture he made towards Ellie, it seemed like he wanted to say something. Was he trying to comfort Ellie? Was he telling her to run away? Was he actually responding to her pleas to get up?
Joel, get up. Joel, fucking get up.
Or was he simply too long gone to comprehend anything at that point? These are questions we will never know the answer to. And that is death. We've mentioned The Last of Us' commitment to portraying events honestly. It forces us into situations where there is no correct answer, where we have to acknowledge the other side, and where reality cannot be denied. That same approach is now being applied to the theme of death. Death is something that's often portrayed romantically in media, but anyone who's lost a loved one knows death is ugly. Death is sudden. You don't always get to tell them you love them, and you never truly know how they felt as they passed on, or where they'll go. But we'll still claim to know. It's something in our nature as people. We will always seek closure for ourselves. Even when faced with undeniable evidence to the contrary, we will stubbornly cling to our own narratives. And so we will look at even death through rose-tinted glasses, romanticize it, because we want to soothe ourselves. But understand, I don't mean that as criticism. I say it with empathy. Grief can drive one mad. If the options really are to see the world as it is and fall into despair, or cling to a false hope that provides comforts, you can see why most choose the latter. We want to believe the world makes sense in a way that favors us. And that's why I find The Last of Us to be so merciless. The Last of Us, to me, isn't trying to be a dark tale, but an honest one. Which honestly makes it even harder to deal with, because it's a story that keeps assaulting us with the truth, one which refuses to allow us any comfort. One that forces us to challenge our perspectives and how we've grown used to seeing the world. Joel's death is the worst death imaginable, but not because of its brutality. That's too simple. But because there's nothing in it to soothe ourselves with. Joel was never forgiven by Ellie. He spent his last few years estranged from her. And Ellie, who already struggles with survivor's guilt, is made partly responsible for his death. She blew off patrol when she was supposed to meet up with Tommy and Joel. Perhaps if she had been there, Joel wouldn't have died. There's nothing we can do here. Just like when we discussed the events of the hospital all those years ago, the more factors we dive into, the more dead ends we collide against. So, let's put down the ultimate question, one which we will seek to answer from this point onwards till the very end of the story. How can one reconcile with the worst death imaginable? Well, to start, we do have one path we can cling to. The last factor in this, in the worst death possible, is that the ones who caused all this have walked away and are somewhere out there, blissfully living their lives. And that we can do something about. Now, at last, we have entered the endgame, and there's still so much we've yet to see through. Ellie's fear and guilt, and her yearning for purpose. Ironically, after meandering for so long, Ellie seems to have found a purpose once again. But how does a purpose like this feed into the two before? And of course, there are all these new elements as well. Hate. a quest for revenge, though some would call it seeking justice, while others would argue it's simply grief. For us, however, it's all a part of love. Before leaving Jackson, Ellie visits Joel's home with Dina to get some sort of a proper farewell.
Hey. What do you need? I can go get it.
I want to do it.
Okay.
I'm okay.
Inside, Ellie spots a guitar, and she writes, "All the promises at sundown, I meant them like the rest," which is a continuation of the song Joel sang for her. That song now takes on a different meaning for Ellie. Many times after in part 2, Ellie attempts to play Future Days on the guitar Joel gave her, but isn't able to. As it stands, Ellie can't look optimistically towards the future, because what's there to look forward to now? All this time, we've been chasing that happy ending. But with Joel's death, it feels like any semblance of a happy ending has gone away with him. I guess the closest thing now would be if, at the end of this journey, Ellie is able to play Joel's song on the guitar Joel gave her, symbolizing that she's finally put him to rest. And with that wish, let's truly begin the final acts.